Welcome back to Desert Island Slabs, the podcast where we delve deeper into the collector and the psyche of collecting. I'm James, my sports compendium, and every episode I invite a different guest on to take us on a journey. To take us on a journey through their collection, but also into their lives a little bit. The way in which I do that is that I ask them to pick the 8 items in their collection that they would save above all others, that they would take, that they would rescue if they were being banished, if they were being stranded, if they were being marooned on a theoretical desert island. My guest this episode is Cindy Dick, also known on Instagram as giantlegends. Cindy is based in Arizona in the USA, and she works as an event manager within Arizona State University. Cindy is incredibly passionate about women's sports cards, and I have been, as I was saying before we started, I've actually been a fan of hers for quite some time, just with the sheer breadth of her collection and her commitment to her hobby and her passion for it. And it's something incredibly inspiring and something that's definitely influenced me in the way in which I collect. So to have her on Desert Island Slabs is a real honour for me, and I really think that the guests and viewers will really enjoy this. So Cindy, thank you so much for coming on Desert Island Slabs. I'm really honoured.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, yes.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. And it's a pleasure being here. We know between ourselves it's taken months because several of the items that I picked today were being graded by PSA, and it has taken about 5 months to get them back. So thank you for being patient.
Yeah, no, I was really, really passionate about you coming on this series, the second series. So and we're not on a schedule. It's a hobby. I don't have a content manager. The only content manager is myself and maybe my Labrador at home. So, but anyway. So, Cindy, obviously with Desert Island Slabs, you've had a while to think about it, and you knew what the format is, and you knew you'd have to pick 8 items to within your collection. And I know you've got a huge collection. So, what went through your mind when you were picking your 8, and how did you come to your sort of final decision?
Yeah, it was definitely a really, it was a great challenge. I think I looked for items that spoke to my heart. It's not necessarily something that has a huge monetary value. Maybe some of them do, maybe they don't. But it's things that had either a personal memory. I met the athlete. A lot of them are tied to history. And so it's really things that meant something to me in my heart in kind of a deeper level than just say maybe. I mean, everyone collects things for different reasons, but that was sort of my guiding light, if you will.
Yeah. And was it difficult? Did you have any debates?
Yes. Yeah. So within my card collection, which is vintage women's trading cards, printed around the time they competed, printed pre-1972, anything before 1972. So my personal collection is a little over 2,000 cards. And the older they get, like especially the cards from the 20s and the 30s, I just love those cards. So it's really hard to pick out 8 items. And just for the viewers, they're not all cards that we're going to talk about today. Yeah. So that was fun too, to open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I really like some of the oddball sounds like I'm being it's a pejorative term, but some of the more oddball items. And I guess one of the first item we're going to discuss is actually one of the more oddball items. Yeah. And I was about to say I don't think. I know we haven't seen one of these items on Desert Island Slabs before. So, Cindy, should we have a chat about your first item that you've chosen?
Yeah. All right. So the first item, I'll give a little bit of a backstory. My aunt, who has ties to Germany, went to Germany, and she said, I found these trophy toppers in like a Berlin market, like a flea market, if you will, but a market. And can you use them? And I'm like, sure. They're of women tennis players and bowlers, and they looked really old, probably from the 1940s. So I took them home. Had no idea what to do with them for years. And so then eventually I started making things with them, like door stops and business card holders. And then that kind of hooked me into looking for other ones. And so I found this one online. And And I knew she was really special.
Wow.
She is a basketball player. I am guessing she's from the 30s, maybe 40s, based on her hairstyle, based on the look of the basketball, based on what she's wearing. So I wanted to do something special with her. The other thing unique was that you can't see it, but all trophy toppers have a screw at the bottom, and that's what attaches them to their base. Hers was flat, no screw at all, at all. It kind of like it locked into something. So I knew it was really different. So I turned it into a lamp that I call Hoop Dreams.
It's amazing.
So if you touch anywhere on her, it's a touch sensitive lamp. And I wanted to do something other than a backstop in a traditional looking basket. So I found a bulb that's got this like glazing on it that looks like a net. And so, yeah, so this is the first one I made. I sell some of these on my onhermark.com site. I've got several in production that I don't even have on site. But because she was my first, and because the topper is so unique and so old, and I just have a gut feeling I will never see another one like her, for now, I am keeping her.
It's a truly amazing item. And as I said, when I saw the reel, I thought it was cool enough in its own regard. And then for it to be have this touch effect is just absolutely crazy.
If I may, I'll say one more thing about it. People probably would not know this if I didn't tell them, but I handmade the court, and you might not be able to quite see it. Each piece is cut individually, but this came from a woodworker who used to work for the Gibson Guitar Factory. He bought the wood as slabs in the 50s, and it's from South America, and you can't buy them anymore because they're endangered, the type of wood it is. And so it was used with them because it has great acoustics, which doesn't matter for this piece, but it is a beautiful wood. And I just thought adding that made it just that much more special.
And how did you, were you looking for a specific type of wood for this item then? Because you knew it was a very special kind of trophy topper thing, or how did you choose this wood then?
By the color, by the grain. I'm trying to mimic like what a basketball court would look like. Older courts, at least in my mind's eye or in pictures, they seem to have a darker wood and not the lighter wood of the maple today. I could be wrong with that, but again, in my mind's eye. So that's why I went with the darker wood, and I just thought the contrast would look good or better with the goldness of the topper.
Yeah, it's amazing. It looks incredible, actually. And
Thank you.
Because you mentioned you make a few items and things, and you're quite into sort of woodwork and things. How did you? Is that something you've done your whole life, or is that something that's a relatively recent endeavor, or how did you get into it?
I learned from a wonderful sculptor in Maine when I was in college in Maine, and did an independent study with him. He made everything from nature, and he was just this authentic, wonderful, wonderful artist. And so I had a couple independent studies with him, and he taught me a lot. But it wasn't till later that I merged this love of woodworking with women's sports. And I'm actually much better sculpturally than I am with anything with like straight lines and 90-degree angles. Like I can't make a piece of furniture hardly to save my life. But usually if it's a little bit more artistic, and then I have some more freedom with it. But I have a lot, I can thank Joe Escreezy, who's since passed, unfortunately, but wonderful artist who taught me a lot.
And do you spend because to me, I kind of try and do some exercise, and I try and like learn a language as well, which is what I do. But then I don't really have time for many hobbies because I spend so much time on the kind of card hobby, ticket hobby, and things like that. How do you divide up kind of the how much time you spend on the sports cards, which we'll speak about with this? Is it kind of something you're quite intentional about, or is it just you literally just do what you feel like on a particular week or particular day? Or
pretty much. And because I do have different hobbies, it's kind of the do a lot but master a few kind of thing. I do focus on the cards, especially when I'm in the process of writing for the book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I'm a Libra, and so I notice like when I'm out of balance, I have to have certain things like exercise and love of nature and be outdoors and do something artistic, do something with my hands, do something with my mind. And so I need to balance all of those, not all the time at the same time, but I know I can tell when I'm out of balance and I need to do something else.
Yeah. And also, this may be a very immature question, but I'm very curious. Just out of it, how long does this sort of thing take to make for you?
So,
What's that?
yeah, so the lamps, I started to get more refined in what I was doing. And what that means is that these toppers, they always have like a base of about half-inch big, and they usually flare out. And so if I sink that right into the wood, there's a space. So I started to file that base either off, depending on the piece, and you can see some of those that are like the speed skaters, and on my webpage, you can see that they're like just down to the shoe. But filing that flush takes a long time because I have to do it by hand. These toppers are made of an amalgamous metal. And so when you heat them up by using a power tool, I have snapped one too many off. They just break like at the ankles and you can't glue them back. So I've learned that I have to do it by hand. That's a slow process. I mean, it can take, if I had a full day to concentrate it, I might be able to knock it out in a day or two, but I never have a full day. So it's a process, and sometimes it's just a matter of, the design. I try not to just stick a topper on something and put a lamp pole in it and call it good. I try to do something that merges it with the sport to make it unique, like the Hoop Dreams lamp.
And do you work on sort of one particular project at a time, or have you got a few going on, or what's your approach like?
Yeah, at first I think it was one at a time, but now I can do a few. Like I have a few in process that I need to finish. So it's just a matter of like bandwidth of how much I can actually commit to doing it. And like anything creative, it takes energy. And so sometimes I just need to take a break of it and step back and then revisit it again. And because On Her Mark is a side business, it's a outlet of my passion for women's sports. It's not like I have to produce and sell and produce and sell.
No. Yeah. Well, this is a truly amazing item, and I would encourage the viewers and listeners to go on to On Her Mark.
Thank you.
To have a look at some of the wares that are on the website, because they are truly amazing. And so I think normally you kind of do the other, mentally I'd say, we'll do the normal stuff that I kind of expected, but we've kind of done the lamp first, and then actually now we're going. Again, ironically, actually, we're going not quite into your zone of the hobby of the women's sports cards and the area you collect, but we're homing in a bit. And with the next item that we're going to speak about, we're going to speak about one of the most famous women's soccer players of all time. And she has global reach and is a global star, but there's a very personal story attached to this next item. So should we have a chat about this next item?
Yes. Yeah. Let's bring out Mia.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mia Hamm, it is an autographed card, and I rarely buy autographed cards unless I've met them. And I do that not only to know it's authentic, but because there's such a great story that goes with it that you can tell for your lifetime. And with Mia, she came to ASU to run a soccer clinic for kids. It was a promotional with an ice cream company. We weren't planning on doing it at the time I was working in the athletic department. It was on the heels of a 3-day 20-team softball tournament on 2 locations. So for me, I ran that, and it was extremely tiring to run. These are like 20, almost like 18 of the top 20 teams in the country would come out for this tournament. So it's a big deal. So about a week before that tournament was supposed to end, we get a call from Mia Hamm's people saying the field that they picked is in terrible condition, terrible. So in the summers in Arizona, we have grass, but you have to maintain it. And this was a brown field. So anyways, they wanted to come to ASU and do this on the ASU women's soccer field. And so we jumped through hoops to make it happen. And so the day of, I was like, I'm going to be there. I think it was the last day of the softball tournament. I'm going to be there. And so with this comes a press conference. And if you know anything about Mia Hamm, she loves playing soccer. She does not like being the face of women's soccer, or at least especially like when they were rising to their prominence, because all the cameras were on Mia. So they have a press conference in the beginning. Now, we have a rule within employees at ASU in the athletic department. You are not supposed to ask for autographs. But I'm like, I jumped through hoops to make this happen, to get her on this field. Even our soccer coach didn't believe she was going to actually be there. He said, "Oh yeah, they're probably going to bring a cutout of her." No, she was there in person. So at the press conference, she's sitting there and she's answering the questions patiently. And at the end, she's like, "Don't we have a clinic to run?" She's like getting tired of them. So then I asked her to sign this. I should take it out of the plastic so you can actually see it. So that was my opportunity to meet Mia Hamm. She was great with the kids. I played youth soccer as a child, and I was ready to, go out there and play again. So you can see her signature right there. And and it's also sort of a benchmark. Like anytime I see anything else signed and people are like, "Is that really her signature?" I'm like, "Oh, let me look." Yeah, so super nice, very gracious with her time. It was an honor to host her on our field and for her to actually be there. So it all worked out, and I didn't get in trouble.
That's good. I think it's that memory is one of the things, but especially as collectors, often we want a symbol or an actual physical item of a particular thing in our lives, and a lot of Desert Island Slabs, I ask that question that I ask at the beginning to everyone, and often one of the most common things people say or guests say is that they want something that's representative of the sort of most important tenets or themes within their life. And this really speaks to me on that, in the sense that this was a huge moment, because obviously Mia Hamm's a massive star, but this was also a large amount of work that went into it for you as well.
And because so much of my collection is of women that have died. That there's just like when they're alive, they're a big deal, but it's not as much as when they're dead and or when they've passed. And so to meet living athletes, knowing that we're not all going to be around, it's like you have to take advantage of that opportunity too. And
And when was this event? Was it recent, or was
this would have been probably 2002 or 3, somewhere in there, early 2000s. Yeah.
So quite some time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And did the children enjoy the clinic?
Oh yeah.
Was it go down well? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she was great with the kids.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool to have Mia Hamm with you doing a soccer clinic. Although
and it was very private. It didn't. It didn't draw a lot of media attention besides the press conference, but we didn't have like throngs of people in the stands. It was really a private special event.
Yeah, and I guess what I would ask as well, even though I'll ask a bit later because about this, but would you be tempted to get this card graded for an auto?
Yes.
Yes.
I should have included it in these like 13 I just sent off, but I think that was just my trial run, and I have more.
Yeah,
we'll do it again.
But unfortunately we only ever do one Desert Island Slabs with each person, so we can't wait months and months for the next submission. But I'll look forward to your kind of one. It's great what you're doing as well. I advise anyone also to check out Cindy's Instagram again, Giant Legends, because this kind of 12 days of PSA returns is actually really cool as well. Because it's bite-sized, and you get an insight into the athlete a bit, and you see the items and things, and actually some of the items that returned, obviously, like we said, while we're waiting to record this, are items that we're going to see in this episode as well. Yeah. So that's really cool. But I really this is a card that I don't own, this Upper Deck card, but I know it's one of Mia Hamm's kind of early cards that people covet, especially in high grades.
Yeah, I think it's 1991 if I remember right. I have to look it up, which I can't see in my glasses. But that's my recollections, 91.
Yeah.
Could be wrong though.
And it's it's
interesting. The 1990s was that flood of sports cards that almost destroyed the hobby. But for women, it opened up a lot of opportunity because card companies were desperate to find something to find a buyer, because they were competing against themselves like mad. And so they included women in sets like they hadn't before.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that will definitely be a theme of some of the things we cover a bit later on, with the ridiculous underrepresentation of some athletes and kind of the aftermarket cards and things of these athletes we see more and more often. And I think that the next item is the first item that you pulled out on your 12 days of return PSA card returns, and it's actually it was almost quite serendipitous in a way that was the first one you picked out, because
It really was.
You said that you didn't fix it, did you, Cindy?
No.
Wasn't like tabbed or something on the back?
It is a blind draw. I have no idea what I'm pulling. It's killing me waiting for each day to get a new one. I have no clue, and I just talk off the cuff.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely brilliant. And because you actually said in that that this was the first card you chased in the early 1990s.
Yes.
So shall we have a chat about this next card?
Yeah. So Babe Didriksen's 1933 Goudy Sport King card. It's an American card. It's a gum company. Most of their cards are of men, except for this one and Helene Madison, who is another 1932 multi-gold medalist swimmer. And so Babe was special to me because I was aware of her probably since junior high. I was a track and field runner. I also did hurdles and high jump. I don't know actually if it was because of Babe or because I just liked those sports, but she had always been, on my horizon as an amazing athlete growing up. I don't know if role model is the right word, but definitely aspired to or admired her as an athlete. It wasn't until later I learned how kind of cocky and brash she was. I personally am a huge advocate of sportsmanship, and she did not model that early on, the more I learned about her. But I was in a card shop in Charlottesville, Virginia. This is before eBay was a thing, and they told me about this Babe Didriksen card. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to find this. And so I would look, and when eBay came out, I would look and try to buy it, and I just kept getting edged out. I don't think I really understood how to win at eBay like I do now. And so finally when I got it, I'll disclose here, it doesn't matter because it's, the prices have just gone way up, but I think I paid like $92 for this, which back then, and I was in grad school, I believe, that was a ton of money for me. She came in, I think at a 2, which, I had no idea what she would come in at. One of the reasons I also sent off these cards to be authenticated was to know that they're authentic. That's always the biggest worry. I mean, women's cards don't draw a ton of money. Some do, but a lot of them don't. So there's not a lot of worth in counterfeiting. But her card has always drawn attention. So just because she was so special in my life growing up, and because this shows her as a hurdler, and I love the little icons at the bottom, and this came out right after the 32 Olympics. I just thought this was a great card, and I love the artistry of it. It's not just a photo, like a lot of them are black and white photos. So that one's always been special to me, and I'm happy that I got it graded.
Yeah, it's a great looking card, and it's quite. I mean, it's not really my kind of collecting wheelhouse, and I think one of the things I've probably been influenced by you actually is kind of to be focused in a way, because otherwise you can almost be lost in this like quagmire of things. But it is a set I've seen quite a bit because there's like the Babe Ruth cards and things like this. But it's quite a popular and striking set, the Goudy, and it's one that is quite popular with collectors, isn't it? How did you learn about it in the first place? This card, was it? How did it come to your attention?
I went to a card shop in Virginia, and in my early time of collecting, I would go to card stores and card shows, and I would ask if they had women's cards. And I wasn't even necessarily focused on vintage. I didn't have parameters at that time. I would just look for any kind of cards. And so he told me about that, and it just struck a chord with me because I knew of Babe and I knew who she was. And, she's a 3-time medalist from the 1932 Olympics. She's one of the most prolific co-founders from the LPGA in the 1950s. That I think, if I'm right, that's the first professional women's sport organization in the world. So yes, and even the other LPGA co-founders have said it would not have got off the ground for at least 10 more years if it wasn't for Babe.
Yeah.
She was that important to them. So anyways, so that's how I found out about it, was somebody telling me at the time, and then I looked for it.
And was it very soon upon your entry into the hobby that you found out about this card, or?
I would say within, I'm going to just guess, a few years. Yeah. And again, then I was collecting a lot of contemporary cards from the 1990s. So she wasn't the first vintage card I got, but she was the first one I actively went after.
Yeah, and it's a great image as well. I think
Yeah.
the kind of the reddy orange background and just her kind of hurdling, like you say, is an amazing image, and she's someone that I'm not super familiar with, but someone that again it almost transcends women's sports in a way for just for her versatility, it
Yes.
just
Yeah.
across multiple sports, and also, like you say, I think that you prefer kind of professionalism and sportsmanship, but she was quite prone to the sort of the gamesmanship as
Yes.
well, and that kind of
Yeah.
almost quite bolshy behaviour and things, and she was so versatile. But she said things like, "What the only thing she doesn't play with is dolls," and all this stuff. And because you mentioned as well, which I wanted, she did some quite controversial advert or something, did she,
Yeah.
or something?
So in the 30s, you had to be an amateur to compete in the Olympics, and I've never read like the full story on what happened. I don't even know if it's conclusive, but her image was used in a car advertisement, and because of that, they said you're promoting a commercial entity, so you are no longer an amateur. So it really, put her, stunned her, and it would have been interesting to see if she had been able to compete, what she would have done in the 1936 Olympics. But
Yeah,
then it kind of put her into like this is all she knew. She wanted to be the best athlete in the world. That was her number one goal. And talk about being cocky. I'll just tell you one quote. Like she would go into a competition and she would say, "The babe's here. Who's coming in second?" I mean, she was just like uh, tomboy and like brash and cocky and all those things. And so then she went kind of like she made her own sports vaudeville show, um, did other things for money. She played some men's baseball in exhibition pitches, things like that. And eventually in the 50s, the women's LPGA was starting to form. They had a great group of women golfers, and she joined this other group, well, a group of 13, became a 13 group of 13 women that started it.
yeah, it's an amazing woman, and amazing kind of legacy that she left. And I think as well, what I wanted to ask you at this point was, this was quite early in your women's sports card journey.
Yes. Yeah.
How how did how did you get into it? Like, how was it? How did it all start?
Probably the most innocent way you can imagine. I was yard sailing. So I was in grad school. I was studying women's representation in sport, had nothing to do with my academics. I was out yard sailing. And I remember this young boy with his table full of sport cards. And I can't remember if I saw it or he pointed out. I think he might have pointed out, but he said, "Here's a card of a female ice hockey player." And it was Manon Rhéaume, the goalie. And I just thought that was amazing. I had baseball cards as a kid. I had a shoebox of them. I sold them. The only one I remember is Hank Aaron. But from that time as a kid, which I was probably 8 or 9, I sold it. Never thought about them twice until I saw that card. And then I was bit by the hobby. So then I started
Yeah,
going to shows and there was a few stores out there and just asking around. And I got all kinds of responses. Like usually they just looked at me funny. They said, "Oh, well, we have coaches' wives, we have cheerleaders." There just wasn't a lot of women's cards, and there started to be because this was the early 90s. And so then there started to be more and more. And I got so good at identifying packs that I could go into a store that I didn't know, ask for women's cards, and they'd say, "No, we don't have any." And I said, "Well, do you have this set? Do you have that set? Do you have that set?" They'd pull out their boxes. I'd go out with a stack of cards like that. They had no idea they were in there. They weren't interested in them. It just wasn't their thing, but it was mine. And so then one day I found a vintage card by rummaging through these, I think it was a toy and antique show at a local mall where I was living in Virginia. And I just saw under the glass a vintage card, and literally like feeling of like electricity through my body. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what she did. I just knew that was something really special. And I knew I was onto something. I just didn't know what. And
yeah,
eventually, probably within, I don't know, a few years, I created the parameters of pre 1972 because of Title IX, had to be around the time that they were playing, and had to be an authentic card. So I don't do a lot of aftermarket cards. We'll talk about Althea Gibson in a minute.
yeah,
And I had to do that too because I didn't make a lot of money. It wasn't something academic. I didn't have any idea that I was going to make a book at the time. I just loved these cards. And that allowed me to have a financial focus of energy, of finances. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shaped the collection.
I think focus is very important as well. And when you come in, I spoken about it in previous episodes. That I think that discovery phase is almost quite important in a way when you're testing out and maybe you're acquiring things or you're researching things that maybe you don't end up wanting to collect in the end, but that's all part of the journey. And then when you get a little bit more established, you can kind of home in on what you actually like, and you will then create your own law, for want of a better term, of kind of around things that you really covet, you really want. And I think that's because obviously there's thousands still in your inclusion criteria, but because I really admire, one of the things I really admire is this focus, like not the aftermarket kind of aversion, again, for want of a better term, but then also how did you come to arrive at these kind of core principles?
Yeah. Well, the aftermarket was pretty clear to me right away, because the cards that came out when they were competing, those cards influenced the women, the boys, the men, whoever saw it. They had an effect on those people. These cards, as trading cards, they weren't sold like they are today, where they're a standalone item and it's only about the card. These cards always marketed a product. And so they were in the hands in a different way than they are of card collectors today. So they could have an influence on people at that time. And it was a different way than, say, like a newspaper story, and especially in the 20s, when they didn't have a lot of print stories about women in sports or sports in general. They didn't have even a sports section for quite a while. And so, you buy a cigarette card. And then maybe the dad passes it on to the kids. And so anyway, by seeing that imagery and reading a little bit about them on the back, that could affect someone's desire to want to be like them. Whereas if you see a card today of them, I should put this differently. So Babe has more cards probably printed today than she did back then. I'm pretty confident of that, actually. I know it's for sure with Althea. That helps us in that it brings back her history, but it's different, and it's a different impact than, say, like, a gymnast that we look at today from the 30s versus looking at Simone Biles. If you're a little kid, who are you going to be more moved by? So I just think that is why, and I don't have a hard and fast rule of what that time looks like, but within a few years, maybe a decade, of when they were actually competing. So I try not to go like too many decades out.
Yeah. I don't really like aftermarket cards, to be honest with you. I know that sounds really reductive, but I find them, there's so much to collect that I can collect.
Yeah.
So for instance, if I play soccer, because obviously, soccer wasn't really heavily collected, and it was collected, but there wasn't really the number of sets produced before the pandemic, basically. And now every single year they bring out all these kind of legendary players, but with these gold like Zinedine Zidane, for instance, these gold parallels out of 50, and it just I don't know, I just don't really I don't really understand them very well. I don't get it. Like I'm not really like a high-end type collector, but I can understand it sometimes if it's a really, really special set and they've kind of got some legends together to do maybe an on-card autos or something, and there are a few examples of that. But on the whole, aftermarket cards, I think, yes, the innocent part of me is sort of like, raise awareness about the athlete or the art, but then the second part is, I think they're just kind of a bit profiteering to an extent.
They are, absolutely. The other reason is not only about how it impacts somebody at the day, but through this collection, so it's over like 2,000 cards. I've got a database of over 3,000. So it's not like I have to collect everything out there, but there's patterns that start to develop. And knowing that they came out around the time the athlete competed, it shows what countries produced more. It shows what sports came out more. and it showed race a lot, and that's a big deal with the U.S. audience. So within these patterns, I started to extrapolate like what was going on in these countries, and that guided my research questions in formulating the book. Because some countries were definitely, like I think the U.S. came in fourth. We look at ourselves today as a huge sport country. They were not back then, at least not in women, of course. And so it speaks to the societal standards and norms and socioeconomic history. And so from that, it's been really telling and revealing, because I've always looked at sports from a U.S. lens. This is such a huge international collection, and has really opened my eyes to other things that were going on in other countries because of looking at it in that kind of time frame.
Yeah, and it's an amazing point, and I think as well it sort of it actually almost really goes back to the whole point of why I do this channel in many ways, in the sense that yes, I love the items, and I love the items and the art and the appearance, but actually I think on your Instagram profile, it's like looking at like something through the lens of things.
Yes.
And that's how I feel about all the items I collect. Is it's more like, it's not actually it's not really necessarily the item. It's actually more what it represents, and kind of my way of linking an event to it, which is why I love a ticket so much, which I've spoken about numerous times. But
especially again with women's sports, because these, like I said, these represented an item that was for sale. Like the card was free, but the item wasn't. And so these marketers, are looking at cards to sell their product.
Mm-hmm.
And so back, especially in the 20s, 30s, like women really weren't supposed to be athletes in a lot of countries, and that's not across the board, but especially in the U.S. and especially in track and field. So it went against the feminine standard. And so to pick female athletes to be on your product, that's what I find really fascinating. Yeah. And what, who knows what their choice process was, but the fact that they did it's just a historical treasure trove.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool. And I can't wait for the book to,
me too.
I can't wait for the book to come out. But with the next size, item 4, we're going to come not too far, well, I guess this team was based up north, but we're going to go over the pond, and we're going to come to Britain, actually. So the next item is an item, a kind of team that I'm very familiar with. It's an item I'm very familiar with because I actually own it as well. So shall we have a chat about your next item?
Yeah, so this is it's ironic. So women's soccer is huge today, but as a team sport and as a sport like soccer, which involves some roughness, it was not a sport for women in general. But the Dick Kerr's soccer team, so this is one of the ones we were waiting on in the grading process. This is a 1925 through 1928 Barrett and Company Dick Kerr's card. And so I'll show you the back. I think it's upside down.
Yeah.
Might be backwards, but anyway, so this shows the entire team. You pointed out one of the athletes. You please do talk about her.
Yeah.
But there's only 2 cards that I actually know of that I have ever found, and even the experts that are more expert than me have said that there's only 2 versions of a card of them. There's a lot of things in other forms of ephemera. There's a lot of books written about them, but this is a team that started in 1917. From the Preston weapons plant, and they started playing. They were watching the guys kind of kick around a ball or playing during a lunch break, and they're like, they don't look so great. And so they formed a team, and they started competing in the 1920s. They had reported 53,000 fans in their stands with 10,000 waiting outside. Yeah. In 1921, there was up to 150 teams in the British Ladies Football Club, and so it just grew really fast. And then they were banned by the British Football Association, of all things, because there was this fear that they were going to start taking money away from the men. So when they first started competing, it wasn't for their own pocket. It was for to raise money for the wounded soldiers from World War One. So then after they were banned in the UK, they went to the US and they played several games, and they beat some men's teams, and they lost, and they tied some. And so, they were just a prolific, wonderful soccer team. The other card is from the 1922 casket cigarette card, and it's of F238, if that means anything for folks.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the only two that I've ever seen of the Dick Kerr's women's soccer team.
Yeah, there's they've got they're two portrait photos. They have got a Baines disc as well.
Yes, yes.
It's like it's kind of like an animated cartoony type thing that's a bit predates it, but I prefer the this is my favorite Dick Kerr's. This is the one I own as well, and I really like this. I like the back on this one. I like the fact it says Sherbet Novelties for some reason.
Yeah. How did it show up in Sherbet?
Yeah, it just feels like quite an innocent, contemporaneous 1920s type thing where they're saying Sherbet Novelties. You won't get any labelling like that, and it's also, I guess, quite British in some ways. Yeah, Dick Kerr's ladies are, like you say, from a munitions factory. They kind of formed because a lot of the women players were working at the munitions factory in Preston in the north of England in Lancashire. And yeah, there's one player especially famous in the Dick Kerr ladies team. If you just bring it up,
see if we can get it.
next to the coach on the bottom row, this one, so the rightmost player is a player called Lily Parr, who is was a massive player and probably the first star of women's soccer, and she was the sole woman inductee in the English Football Hall of Fame upon the making of that. She has quite a large statue in the National Football Museum.
Excellent.
And she's a really, really big deal. And yeah, despite being such a big deal, she doesn't have any specific cards, or not any that I found, because but it's so funny because when I entered the hobby, speaking for myself, and actually with the next person as well, I'm not kind of I don't like prioritize women's cards or anything, but these items, so Dick Kerr and the next person, they were ones that I literally, like, when I realised that sports cards were a thing and existed, when I did, after you, these were some of the first things I looked for. And I looked so hard to find like an individual Lily Parr card, because I hoped that there'd be like some cigarette issue or something where it's just her, because I do like the team photos, but I haven't found anything despite quite a lot of looking. Like I've seen like a few photos and postcards and things, or photos of her that I hoped would just put on some cigarette card or something, but haven't found anything. And I would recommend anyone whom is more interested in Dick Kerr's ladies to read Gail Newsham's book. I think it's called In a League of Their Own or something. I read it quite a while ago, but it's a really good book and a deeper dive into some of the other factors, like you say, because I mean you could pick out numerous stories of the English FA being unpleasant pretty much since in their 160-year history, but this was again another example of the FA being unpleasant, and they tried to basically really make it hard for them to continue. And and
that ban lasted till 1960.
It's crazy.
The other reason why that card is special is because I started communicating with one of your authors whose specialty in 2 books that he's produced about sport tobacco cards. And I think one specializes on just football or soccer. And so we were communicating. He has a website. I think I asked him if he ever had this, and he actually sold me that card from his personal collection. And he said, this is actually better quality than the one that's featured in the book. So making those connections to me is such a treasure too. It's not an anonymous person I'm buying from an auction site. And it's a trusted source, and so it was really nice that he did that.
Yeah, it's a really nice card. I don't have mine with me or anything, but it's actually like a really nice photo as well. It's good quality. I've seen quite a few I've seen a few postcards, and you can, for anyone interested in acquiring some Dick Kerr's items, I don't have any, but the postcards do come up occasionally of the Dick Kerr's kind of women's team. I do look at them, and I've kind of I would quite like a casket, and I'd quite like that Baines
Yeah.
circular shield at some point. But the Barrett is my favourite of them,
Nice.
definitely. And I love this item, and it's it is sad though that the FA were just unpleasant about it all, and kind of, and it's also sad that Lily Parr doesn't have an individual card.
Yeah.
Because if there was like a 1925, if she was just like included or something in one of the standard lists, like a Churchman's footballers cards list, that would be absolutely amazing. But
it seems crazy that they didn't, because they sure could have. There's so many, sets out there.
Yeah, but it's interesting with the ban and things, and whether they were subconsciously maybe not wanting to promote it. I don't know, or it's hard to know. But like you say, like there's a few examples of women being represented in other cards at that time. So it's a shame they didn't think to include any like Dick Kerr ladies footballers, especially Lily Parr. But never mind. I'm sure that she'll be included in some Premier League Prism set with a superfractor at some point in 2026 when they decide they want.
Right. You're going to listen to this interview like, who did we miss?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'll probably still chase it. That's a sad thing, but just but yeah. And actually, it's a perfect move into the next item, because again, Lily Parr is well known in certain circles, but I think the next sportswoman is someone who is more well known, and she is just. I think if I was to go pound for pound, I think she may well be one of the most underrepresented people in the hobby for kind of her gravitas. It's crazy to me.
Yes.
And this is one of the few cards she has from her career. And it's one of my favourites. So should we have a chat? Yeah.
The great Althea Gibson. So this also comes out of your home country.
Yeah.
In England. It is in the 1950s. I have to look at it. 59.
Yeah.
Barrett and Company. And it's a beautiful card. It's part of a set. It tells a little bit about her on the back. Sorry for all the reflection.
Yeah.
It is one of only 3 cards I've ever known of. The other one comes from the UK. It's the Cadet Suites, but that's like a reversible decal.
Yeah.
So people would probably stick it on something like a window or something. And so then it's, almost, it's not like a card that you can stick in a box. It's gone. I think those are incredibly hard to find as a decal. And then somebody else, I used to say there's only 2, and I should really be careful doing that because who am I to say like what's out there? But he said, I found one in Germany. And he showed me the picture, and I've never seen either of those 2 other cards in the wild, so to speak. But I thought it was really telling. So, she was the first woman of color to win in the profession. It wasn't even professional; it was still amateur. Win at Wimbledon, win at the French Open, win the U.S. Open, and for a long time she was excluded from it because it was a whites-only tennis league. When she got in, and finally, when she won. She won several of those Grand Slams many times, and it just got to a point where she wasn't making money off it like maybe some of the others were on the side. And she basically said, I can't eat trophies, and so she had to go into something else to make money. And it's just like, imagine Serena Williams, if she only could play a few years, like we wouldn't have this grand history, and she wouldn't be considered the greatest women tennis player ever. If she could only play a couple years. And I think Althea was of that same caliber, and we'll just never know. What's interesting about these 3 cards as an American player, the fact that no one that I know of has ever seen one as a trading card produced in the U.S. around the time she was competing. She is one of these athletes that has way more cards today. And it's so representative of the racial times from the 1950s to today of so much, greater acceptance. But that's another reason why I focus on cards that were printed when they were around, is because it represents in many ways the silence, the absence of what it was like back then. Even though there were lots of cards of like Jesse Owens. I don't know if they were American cards though, now that I think of it. and other famous Black athletes. But like you said, underrepresented. Even at the U.S. Open, her little statue, I mean, it's the Arthur Ashe court. She preceded Arthur Ashe, or she was long before Arthur Ashe, decades before Arthur Ashe, was even swinging a racket. So it's just amazing that she doesn't have more recognition now, but it's better than it was back then.
Yeah. Because like I was alluding to with the Dick Kerr, but I did it way more with Althea. And actually, I said I wasn't going to reference it. I do just have to have a little.
Sure.
There
Oh,
we
yeah,
go.
right on. Yep.
I think she went literally when I entered the hobby. I went for like David Beckham, who was and people that I love. But Althea was very very soon after, actually, because I'm a bit of a closet tennis fan, especially sort of like vintage tennis and things. And I think so like Althea and Billie Jean King are two athletes, sports people that I would probably put in my top 10 of all time. And I think Althea, and actually Billie Jean King always references Althea as her all-time hero
Yes,
as well,
yeah,
actually.
absolutely.
So that's a link for someone that's had such a huge impact on tennis, and she references Althea as basically, she refers to her as a shiro, and she says,
Yeah.
without Althea, she wouldn't have been
Yeah.
anywhere near what she was. And but it was really interesting when I came in and looking for these items, because I kind of thought, I'm going to look for Althea, items, and I was like looking around, and at the time, what I would say as well, even though I don't like speaking about price, she has got more recognition because now the price has gone up on a lot of these items from five years ago or so, 6 years ago.
Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, the Giants in Sport is one of the cards that I really, really wanted when I entered.
Yeah.
It didn't take too long actually, but now I don't tend to see them come up quite so often. It's not the most frequently appearing set, but I really like this card, and I really like the description on the back as well of her.
Yeah, it's just interesting, because she was the first Black woman to put foot on the grass of Wimbledon. That's just really appropriate that this card came out of London. But again, where are the other countries?
Yeah,
Particularly, where's the U.S.? So
exactly, and I think this is one of the reasons why it's nice that she was included, because it's a set of 48, and they put her in, and they reference the consecutive Wimbledon wins she had. And I also like, do I have it? I don't like getting my own, but it's relevant. I showed you it the other day, but I can't. Oh, it's here. I have to.
Okay.
So this is when she won Wimbledon in 1957. So the first champ. This is a ticket to that.
There is. That's right. The ticket. Wow, what a treasure.
Yeah,
wow,
it's amazing.
Awesome.
And this, because and actually, I love tickets anyway, because I think they complement. They basically dovetail with the item. But in items in people like this, actually, they to me they're more treasured, because I don't have the card to collect, so I don't have anything. I've got this cadet thing that is mythical, and I've seen one photo of it, and the German thing as well I've seen a photo of, but then it's an opportunity to kind of, but even then, I mean, this is the first Wimbledon ticket I've seen in 5 years, final to that match, but
That's amazing.
It's just, yeah, and it's interesting with the cadet. I actually quite like the image of the cadet one as well, and it's funny as well, because I'm not really a big racing fan, as in horse racing fan, but one of the most famous jockeys, he has 2 rookies and rookie cards, and actually one is in Giants in Sport, and then he also has one in that transfer. So Lester Piggott, he has a cadet transfer set as well. So it's quite interesting that 2 quite famous people like Althea and Lester Piggott have their first kind of cards in that set. But Althea, it's yeah, and I also, going back to Babe Didrikson, and I mean, Althea had an attitude as well. She was.
She didn't really want to be the face of her race and have that spotlight and have that pressure. She wanted to play tennis. She
Yeah.
wanted to play it well. But yet her race in the U.S. was looking to her, you betcha,
Yeah.
as a breakthrough, is to show not only equality, but superiority.
Yeah.
And yeah, she had a ton of pressure on her, though, to, be a certain way.
Yeah. And like you say as well, because it's despite her gravitas and things, and now she's got the statue at Flushing Meadows, and she's so revered now. You said that because she played golf as well for a
Yes,
bit.
yeah. She actually played on the LPGA. Not
Yeah.
as good of a golfer as she was a tennis player, of course,
No.
but at least she was a pro sport.
And yeah, no, and
Yeah.
she did some lounge singing as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. You know your
Yeah.
history. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, she was a decent singer. She actually has an album out. Didn't do great, and I think that's why they didn't
Yeah.
produce another one. A very multi-talented human being.
Yeah, no, it's just an amazing. I'm so pleased you included this one because yeah, and there's a few of my friends within the hobby will be having a little chuckle because I'm always going on about Althea Gibson in some regard. So
Sweet.
I'm so glad that you included it. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to talk about her on Desert Island Slabs. And then I think with the next items, it almost I do associate you with kind of like, well, all women's sports cards and things pre 1972 and people like Babe Didrikson, Althea Gibson. But actually, in my mind, when I think of you as because you cover all of those items. I kind of associate you more with kind of the more like obscure cards and things in many ways. And I think the last three items we're going to discuss are going a bit more obscure, for want of a better term. And the next item as well is one that I've never seen, an item I've never seen, and an athlete that I don't know too much about but had heard of. So should we have a chat about your next item number 6?
So it's interesting, one of the downsides of sport was that it was very racist, especially when it came to things like the Olympics. And we're talking the early half of the 20th century. Sport leagues in general, I mean, especially in the U.S., again, this is an American lens, white women had the upper hand. And so to find cards of black women, or any race, but particularly black women, is incredibly hard. And so this next one, I don't have it graded, but it was really special to me because it is the first card that I have found that has a American runner in it who is black. And this is May Fags. It's not particularly of her, but the card, I think it's in German. It talks about her, and it's interesting that she's off to the side. And if you've ever run track, this is a very typical track scene of getting in and out of sweat, stretching, getting ready, or maybe finishing a race. But May, this card is from 1952 Olympics. So this was her first Olympics. She ran for the famed Tennessee Tiger Bells, and that coach produced later Wilma Rudolph. It produced Wyomia Tice, who I talk about in one of the card unveilings. But in 52, she was part of the 4x100 gold medal relay team. And then she came back in 56, and that relay team won bronze. And so this is why I picked this, is because it is so rare to find black women in the card collection. It is a pretty white collection. And so this is the earliest representation I can find so far. I'd love to find something like Tidy Pickett from the Olympics, or Washington, who was an amazing tennis player, also predated Althea. I mean, there's so many, but so far, she's it.
And how did you come to be aware of this card? Is it that it kind of appears and then you retrospectively you kind of do the research at the time, or what was this one? Did you know about it and then it came up, or you looked at it?
No. So a lot of the cards come from Germany. They are the biggest producer from like 30s on. And this, like I said, is 52. They also produced a ton of track and field cards, but this is from an Olympic set. And so a lot of times with sets, I try to get either the whole set or at least the majority. So anyways, I just came upon it by chance. And I just get so excited when I see someone who's not white. That the fact that they made a card, and especially in the 50s, I mean, you won't find, I'm going to put money on it, an American card of Mayfags from the 50s. I mean, where they were just coming out of, or had, I don't know the exact date, forgive me, but, Jim Crow laws, and just still an incredibly racist time. It predates our Civil Rights Act in 1964. It was just really difficult for particularly women that were Black.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you see people like Mayfags and Alice Coachman and all these people that don't. I mean, Alice Coachman probably more to this point that doesn't have. It just is weird. It's just really strange, actually, because she won gold in 1948 in London,
and the first one to win it by herself. May was with a relay team, but she's the first to win it. And 48. I don't know of cards for her until 96.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And then that's why I like the ticket, because then the ticket is an opportunity to kind of have at least something to have from that really quite important event. But this, so was this kind of like an eBay purchase or like a auction
probably. Probably an eBay purchase, and probably with a bigger set. It's not something so famous that they would sell it by themselves. It was probably a set.
Yeah, and it kind of goes into a bit about the questioning about a book, but actually more the question is about how you index things in general. Like because when you've 3,000 items to index and put in something vaguely sort of coherent that you can access, how do you index things?
That was one of the biggest challenges, because is it organized by sport? Is it organized by, chronologically? Is it organized by person? And so it took a long time to come down with it's sort of a generic, not generic, but general time frames that I'm looking at. And even though my collection goes up to 1972, I actually decided, just for time's sake, there's just too much history here, that I would stop it around World War II. And so 1940-ish. I stop for the book's purpose. The downside of that is that it's almost all white women. But it is, for me, and race aside, I mean, for me, just the cards that are of most interest to me for some reason are the ones in the 20s and 30s. And it's also the 1930s is the apex of the production. After the war, they disappear almost. There's the ban on paper, or, the paper went to the war effort. Other things changed in use of tobacco cards. They never regain the level of production and up until 1972. You would think it would be just an upward trajectory, but it is not. And so there's just very few cards in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So for that purpose, that's my focus, is earliest card, which is 1887 up until 1940s, and then I look at it roughly by decade. But I do have a chapter, and this is the mother chapter I'm working on now. It's taking forever, called The Olympians, and we talk about the Olympic Games. We talk about the Women's Olympics that happened, and the Olympics of Grace. And then I look. I talk a little bit about each one and how they were unique for women in those Olympics. But then I go into a chronological listing of women that medaled, that have cards that have something interesting in their history. And I did that because a lot of these women competed in several Olympics. They competed in several different kinds of Olympics. And so it was hard to go chronologically in that way.
No, yeah, exactly. And when did you decide that you wanted to write a book? Was it always something that you wanted, or?
No. Anything in my family, a book? I don't read for pleasure. I don't read for recreation. There's just a ton of other things I'd rather do. I love working with my hands. I love being outside. I love playing sport. I don't sit there and just read. I read for information. And so these are kind of like a little gateway drug into learning more. So I think it was when I started to develop enough of a body of a collection. When I had 200 cards, I thought this had to be it. And then they just kept growing and growing and growing. And then I just realized what a treasure trove they are, and how I'm learning so much. I would like to share that with others. So that's how the book idea came up.
And like we said, it's the items themselves are amazing, but actually it's more their cultural context, their socio-political context, and how they sit within that. And I think what I'd like to ask as well, because you like, if basically in a way you're inadvertently conducting a massive cohort study when you're collecting all these things, and what hypotheses do you have for why Germany produced so many cards? What's the reason for that, do you think?
Whereas a lot of countries felt that sport was going to hinder motherhood, Germany realized they needed to rebuild their population after World War One and even before that, because their population was just sinking. And so they actually started to realize that strong women made strong babies. So it was okay for women to compete in sport, particularly track and field. And as long as they didn't forget their number one goal, of course, was to be mothers. And so they, at a governmental level, made sure that the track clubs admitted women. And they were running longer distances, far longer than say, like Americans were at the time. And so it was really just a rebuilding of their country, but looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah. And then that had a kind of trickle. Was that, so then were these items often used to inspire people to get involved then, or what do you think?
I don't know, it's hard to say like what their motivation was. I just can say, just from the volume of representation, that they were definitely more accepted. And I'm sure there was still some pushback on some levels, but that was just the nature of the beast at the day. But just the sheer volume, that Germany is so far above the other countries in what they produced, and that the fact that the majority of them are in track and field, and they're not just German athletes. Of course, they represent other athletes as well. But yeah, Germany, all the way up to, of course, 1936 as a war effort, as propaganda, superiority, all of that. But the cards, from the 32 Olympics are just as strong as 36. So yeah, it was kind of eye-opening to see that.
It's interesting because you can derive the because obviously when you're, a lot of the time, because some the items are often so rare as well,
right, obscure, yeah.
You kind of, you end up collecting all this data, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to go, and then you can draw these patterns and things, and it's. What other countries are there that are quite well represented then?
Boy, I have a pie chart I'll share with you, and if you want to, put it on, because I gave a talk for the North American Society of Sports Historians, and I showed them some charts, and I saw people standing up in the back of the room taking pictures of them. Sweden is another big one. I mean, I think I have something like 26 countries represented that produced the cards, and almost of that many of different sports that are represented. So it is a huge collection, and the book will be curated. It's not going to be everything. Nor will, I would love to have a museum, show to go with the book when it's out. That will not also have everything. It's just too overwhelming. It overwhelms me. So,
and it's kind of like to decide what to include. I mean, it's like a way bigger version of Desert Island Slabs. This is 8 items and a lot quicker. But a book, what do you include? It's just tricky because. But I can't wait. I sound like your publisher or something. But do you have any idea on a time frame? Is that an annoying question, or what do you think? Would you like to do?
Once I get a publisher, the time frame usually is about a year, because they like it to be out within a year. I did have an offer from a publisher, but the look and feel, the distribution wasn't right. To me, it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with, money back to me. Sure, it'd be nice to be paid something, but this has really been a labor of love. And so I have a certain kind of like look and feel that I would like, have how it produced, and also obviously distribution channels. And so it was exciting to get an offer, but it just wasn't the right fit. No. So I'm still pushing it out, submissions to publishers. I have another one coming out shortly, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, good luck with it. I can't wait for it to be released when it comes out. I will definitely be buying a copy, and I will have it on my bookcase next to.
I'll have a party in London.
Release party, and it can go next to my pediatric infectious diseases books. But and I think, well, we spoke, actually, with the next item, I'm going to kind of quote something you have on your website with this, actually, if it's okay with you. And it's because we speak about the indexing that you apply, but then you actually There's a more informal colloquial indexing that you comment upon, which is the common cards,
Yeah.
the rare cards, and the OMG rare. And actually, this seventh item, the penultimate item, you put in the OMG rare category.
Yes.
So should we have a chat about this, which is like a book, is it? Or a booklet, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, so this is coming out of Sweden. It is a booklet. And a lot of it's from Allers, which was a magazine, Allers. This was somebody's personal little booklet with their information on it even. So what I do, because I find sometimes the US eBay has a lot of the same stuff. And I speak a little bit of German. And so I'll troll around the German eBay site. And for a little while, I had someone living in Europe. So if they didn't send to the US, they could at least send to her in her country. So this was found on the German site. And this is a redemption piece from Sweden, like I said, from this magazine company. So, I mean, these are the men's cards. But what you had to do is you would get your card from the magazine and then put it in here and send the whole thing in order to get a prize. And so on the blog, on Her Mark, I tell a little bit more about this. And the seller only posted like a few of the women shown. And they weren't like, they're all 1932 Olympians. I don't know everything about the men, but I didn't know all of them. And then when I got to, well, there's a few of them. Stella Walsh was born Polish, but then came into the U.S. and an incredible sprinter, an intersex athlete that wasn't discovered till she was killed. But like, I have never seen this image of Stella Walsh. And a lot of times, since photography was kind of rare, they would use the same image again and again, which is what we see in the cards. But it was this card of Babe that just stopped me in my tracks. I've never seen this picture used of her in a card. I'm sure it's out there somewhere because I got it from somewhere. But there are 10 women included in this. And so what you would do is you would send back your cards, which means you're probably, I don't know for sure if they got them back, but a lot of times when you sent in a card to a company, they destroyed them. Yeah. And so to have a whole book that's complete is amazing. So you would send it in, and then you had prizes at stake. And this is from 1935, by the way. And so they different prizes, but the grand prize, so this came out in 1935, the grand prize was an all-expense paid trip to the 1936 Olympics. Yeah. Which was interesting, because I mean, some people, of course, knew what Hitler was doing, but not everybody. Yeah. And so, it's just this amazing find of something I had never seen before. And I'm sure there can be an argument made that these aren't actually cards because they're not sold but as a standalone, but they can be. They don't have to be in the book. And I had never seen this before. It was just amazing. So I think this is, this is Helene Madison, who I mentioned before. She's got the other Gaudi Sport King card made of her. So this, just because it was so jaw-dropping rare that once you see it, and then if you see it many other times, it's like, well, it's not so rare, but I still haven't seen this for sale. And as a complete book, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and is this one you've had for a long time then, or
no? Probably within a year or two. And I have a friend who's from Sweden, and so she translated the things I wanted translated. So that was really helpful too, to make sure what I was saying was accurate about what it meant.
And then, as someone who's been kind of really quite engaged with something for nigh on 30 years, does it ever? What I'm asking is, how does it feel when you find something you haven't seen before?
It is as exciting as finding that first vintage card. It's that feeling that I just want to like run around and tell whoever's near me, just found this. And yet I know that most people around me don't share the same excitement, don't share the same love. And so that's why I created some, online outlets of people that do. Or sometimes there's a few people in my card world that I'll like text directly and I'll just say, oh my God, I just found this, because they get it. They get how exciting that is.
Yeah. And I the item itself, I think is really cool, because I think, sometimes people want to create their lots of rules about. I would say these are cards. I think the cutout ones are cards. Yes, if you had a plethora of options, would these be the most desirable for me? Probably not, but you don't have a plethora, and the actual item itself is so rare. I like the images as well. I like the inset of the portraits and the kind of rim as well. It's quite nice, and it would be. Have you? I guess it would be interesting to see if anyone's graded any of these like cut cards.
Would be.
Yeah,
it would be. It's interesting. I think I'm just going to show more, but one of the cards I'm going to pull soon from my graded unveiling.
Yeah.
I know is not graded, and I sent it off to PSA just to see if they knew anything about it, because I'll tell the story of why nobody knows anything of what this is, but it didn't get graded. But I haven't seen any of these graded either. I've only seen, I think, one other sale of one card, but not, and I think it was Babe's card actually, but not any of the other cards.
Yeah, and I think we kind of spoke a bit about earlier, and this is not a graded item, so it's somewhat ironic that I'm asking about it, because, as I said, have to be careful how I say it, a fan of your work, but you've kind of said about sort of the pre-1972 and the kind of aftermarket aversion, and one of the other things you used to say was you really prefer raw cards and you haven't graded. So why the shift? Was it just for the authentication purposes, or what was it about it that made you kind of grade?
I'm not sure if I said I prefer raw cards. I actually don't mind them graded.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant at first. Like when I first bought a card, I thought it was so annoying because I couldn't put it in the little holder, and I actually opened the case and broke it apart.
Oh, really?
And then I learned, and I felt like an idiot. But anyway, so
that's fine.
I think it was because after COVID, particularly PSA's prices just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And then it became unattainable. Like, I think they were wanting to charge like $50 a card. I was really nervous about sending off my cards in the mail and getting it back. So they offered a local pickup, and I thought, that's great. I'll meet them in person. Really interesting process. And I even told the guy, I'm like, these are really rare cards. Between the price and just the rarity, I might not ever be able to get them back. So please take care of them.
Yeah.
And then it came back, in a signature required delivery service. And so I had a bit more confidence in the process. I like graded. It tells me they're authentic, and especially as a buyer, but of course it ups the price tag. The numbers, it's nice to know, if it's a higher number for sure. You don't see a lot of high numbers though on the old cards. But I think it's just because the volume of cards I have it's so high. There's no way I could get them all graded. And because a lot of women's cards, like I mentioned earlier, didn't have a lot of value to them, why would the seller even have them graded unless it was of like either a high demand card or a famous person? So the number of cards, it's probably under 10% of my entire collection that's graded.
And have you been combing through your collection to kind of see which ones you might like to get graded then, or?
And I haven't got to that point of like what I want to do next. Right now I'm just like revisiting the ones that I did send off.
Yeah.
And enjoying, it's like Christmas every day, right now for the 12 days of unveiling.
Yeah. And you're getting PSA working as well with their research on some of them maybe as well.
Yeah. And the other reason of getting some of these graded is like if there is a museum show, they just show better. And I remember I did a little display. I was vending on a street fair, and I had a display of my cards. And this little boy, I don't know, he's probably 10 years old, 12 years old, and he recognized that some of them were graded. He didn't know the athletes. He had no clue about anything but he was like, they're graded. That's cool. And so it just gave it a higher panache than it would have as just a raw card.
Yeah. No, yeah. I like graded items. I like them both equally, actually. Like I'm quite fine with. I think my main issue is the kind of expense, especially on something that I won't sell. I think sometimes I'm like, why would I necessarily get it graded? But it's interesting speaking about grading and things, and it's interesting speaking about this Allah's album as well, because this is some of the things as well with I've obviously never seen this item before, and it's interesting because it reminds me a little bit of the record sort of photos and things they used to do. The cut up, also Swedish as well. The record magazines that
Yes.
athletes like Wilma Rudolph have as well. But this is like 25, 30 years before the record type stuff. So that's really cool. And like you say, it makes me really sad actually that this used to be the prize that you sent off, and then they probably just, that makes me sad.
Like the Canadian chocolate cards I talk about in some of the earlier PSA unveiling, that they had a little tab at the bottom, so all you had to do is set in the tab. The owner could keep the card. Brilliant. But these, no, you could have lost the card forever.
It seems really strange because you kind of go about collecting, going out, put all the effort to collect it, and I guess the payoff would have been really cool to go to the Olympics at the time. Maybe at least it would have been cool. Maybe it would have been cool.
So this person either had the book after the deadline, or they valued the cards more than the chance to win. So
it's great item, and we're coming to the end, Cindy.
Got one more.
One more. This is very, very sad, but it's been an amazing chat. I mean, we've visited some amazing athletes. And thank you so much for coming on. And the last item is actually, I guess we're bookending things with the two slightly odder items, maybe, because this is an item that I'm probably the most curious to ask about, because it's a very interesting one, and it's just I'm just amazed to how it came into existence, and how it also came into your collection. So shall we have a chat about your
I'm going to bend down and pick it up. Hang on one second.
Sure.
So this is not a trading card. It is a scrapbook from an athlete. I don't know if she pronounced her name Lux, but it's Lux, Stiefel. She was a Swiss track and field champion, and this is her scrapbook of her accomplishments, basically, and like her teammates, so I can't really show you all of these, but it's, all right, how it came about. So my dad remarried. It was his widow's daughter's husband's brother. Lives in DC.
I need to draw out my genetic pedigree and stuff to work out who it is.
And he collects and loves old books. So he lives in DC or in that area, and he was in West Virginia, which is a nearby state, and he found this in a used bookstore of this woman. And so Annie connects us and tells me about it. We have a few Zoom calls. So she was a track and field athlete. These are a mix of her photographs and press releases about her. She, died, but she went to the U.S. basically after World War II and started up a life in West Virginia, worked there her whole life. And she was so good, though. She was, in 1938, she was the European champion for javelin. She came in fourth. She was the Swiss champion for the decathlete, or the decathlon, she was a decathlete. And so an amazing track and field athlete, and I have a feeling if it weren't for the war, she at least would have made the Swiss team, if not been a potential medalist. Oops, that's the picture I want to show you, way over there.
Yeah.
She isn't doing so well. So this is Lux on the very end.
Yeah. Wow.
And just to me, I mean, imagine getting Babe Didriksen's personal scrapbook, and it's even though she wasn't that well known, I think she kind of a lot of athletes got robbed of their participation in the 44 in the 40 Olympics, but just it kind of took me back to a different time, and just this is a loose one, just seeing the joy in these women and competing. They had coaches, it was organized, they had uniforms, another loose one, and just a pure treasure trove. And so when I got my hands on it, I was kind of really hoping, like within the pictures of her competing in other competitions, that somebody I would recognize might be there. But so far, that hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, so it's a fat book. It is all about her competitive years. So somehow within her estate, somehow this got into the used bookstore.
So you think it was like her personal scrapbook
Yes,
of her
oh,
issues?
definitely.
Yeah.
So within
amazing.
it even has like her certificates of participation in sport. I should have had that ready for you, but I'll get to it. Newspaper clippings.
It's amazing.
Yeah, actually, it does say property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's just like a little cutout page, but it's got her certificates, almost like a diploma of participating in sport. Oh, here it is.
Oh yeah.
So, oops, there we go. So just really neat artifacts
Yeah. And
along the way, and I just think, as a historian, this is 1928. I don't know if is it, are you seeing it backwards?
yeah, no, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing
Oh,
it
oh,
properly.
good.
I'm seeing it
I
properly.
see it
Yeah.
backwards. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just really neat items in here of her, of her 1927, her athletic record. And like I said, just showing that they had this organized ability to compete. It's kind of novel because they didn't really have that in the U.S. at that
Yeah.
time.
And you really get an insight. You kind of see this because obviously we're now nearly 100 years after a lot of these items, and it's a real it breathes life into this person, and you
Yes.
you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
their hopes and their dreams and their
Right.
documentation of it, rather than seeing names or letters and statistics. You kind
Yes.
of really get a personal feel and an
Yeah.
insight into this athlete, Lux Stiefel. And have you found out much about her life kind of outside of the book or anything?
There was one article written about her in West Virginia after she died because she was just a beloved person in the community. And that does give some of her background history and I think some quotes from her. I was trying to find that right before this interview. I'll find it and send it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that tells a little bit about her journey, after the war into the United States and her accomplishments as an athlete. And that is the only thing I have ever found. And that was to the credit of the person who bought the book,
Yeah, and
who dug it up.
the person that bought the book is I don't even know what relation is this.
I don't know what extrapolation of, nomenclature of, family ties, but that was the lineage. And so somebody I would have probably never met had it not been for, the first marriage.
Yeah, and he collects old books and
Yes.
found it in West Virginia. And how did you give it to you, or what happened there?
He, after a few calls, he just, I think, could realize how much this would mean to me.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean as much to him, even though he loved old books. And so we did an arrangement of, paying for it basically at cost plus the FedEx shipping. And it was such a treasure to find and to have in my hands when it arrived. So yes,
And-
he was very
yeah.
generous about that.
Yeah, and I guess this is a really interesting one if you were to take it on the desert island, because you have a few different things to look through, and you get to see her life and her doing
Yeah.
some shot put as well by the looks of some of the photos I've got. But is it? Do you tend to, when do your collection, because obviously you've got such a vast collection and you write, do you visit your collection a lot? Do you open the stuff? Do you flick through it a lot? Do you spend time with it? Does that happen a lot, or?
Not just to browse. Usually now it's like either I have a pretty good photographic memory, so when I'm looking at cards, I can either remember I've seen it before, okay, I don't need it again, or I check my database, that's a good source. But sometimes I'll go to the actual book to make sure I already have it or I don't.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when the cards come in, it's putting them into the book.
Yeah.
So I have several different notebooks of cards, and Otherwise, it's more, the few times of, showing it to somebody or a particular sport book, notebook of the cards. But otherwise, I don't just flip through them just to look at them. But when I do, I'm still kind of blown away at what's there.
Yeah. And this is. Do you have other items like this Look Stiefel, or is this a very sort of unique thing in your collection?
I have I don't know who it belonged to, but probably from the 50s or so, a discus that I think was a woman's discus. And it's got the Czechoslovakia flag on it, and a little bitty, in the colors, or it's the flag actually. And so that's nice for me because I'm half Czech. And I was trying to get in touch with this amazing athlete that I came about on the cards. And her name's escaping me right now. At the time, she was still alive. She was living in California. I was trying to reach out to her kids to meet her, to have an interview, sign this. And sadly, she passed before any of that could happen. But I don't collect a whole lot of memorabilia. And if I do, it's around track and field. I have an old pair of women's spikes that have the spikes in the heel, and it's the very long spike from when they used to run on the cinder tracks, and that would be completely illegal today, and you'd probably trip on them today if you had to run in them. So on occasion, and some old medals. I have some old medals from Tuskegee of women's track runners. So I like things now and then, but I really do try to focus my money, my time, my energy on the cards.
Yeah. What an amazing item! An amazing item. And
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Cindy, we've come to the end of our 8 items.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share these with your audience and to talk about them. Such a wonderful trip down memory lane for so many of these, and again, just thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's an amazing item, amazing chat. And is there anything else you'd like to speak about or talk about before we wrap up, or any points you want to make, or anything like that?
If you want to find out more about the vintage cards on Instagram, it's under Giant Legends. And if you're interested in any of the things I make, I have other things around women's sports, but onhermark.com is the retail website. So I don't think I have shipping internationally. I'm sorry, but that's my other website. So yeah.
No, and there's always ways to get these items as well. There's always ways, but and I'd really urge people to go on Instagram, to Giant Legends. I stumbled upon your I think it was probably an Althea Gibson, because not many people were collecting Althea or posting about her, and I think I did like a search for, or some, I don't know what I did, but I ended up on your some years ago now, and it's been an absolute honour to have you on, and just I know you're going to continue doing amazing things in this hobby, and I can't wait for the book. I can't wait for it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Cindy. You've been
You're welcome.
An amazing guest. And
You're welcome. You're an amazing host.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to all the viewers and listeners for watching this episode of Desert Island Slabs. Cindy was absolutely amazing.
Right.
And we're coming to the end of season 2 now. We only have one more episode left after this. But thank you for your support, as always. And if you're able to leave a like and a comment on the video, and if you're able to follow the My Sports Compendium YouTube channel, that would be amazing. But the best thing has been your time and sharing this with us. But thank you so much for watching. And for now, it's goodbye.